Hey guys, happy Thursday. Thank you for joining me. My name is Alyssa Thomas from Penguin and Fish, where we make lovely and quirky hand embroidery patterns and kits. And I'm here every weeknight at 8:30 p.m. Central Time, where we relax and we craft and we work on a project together. And thank you replay viewers for watching, and thank you YouTube replay viewers for watching as well. This will go up on YouTube at Penguin and Fish Movies when we're done here tonight. So we're continuing on the Charming Chevrons quilt by Krista Watson from Krista Quilts. It's this adorable little zigzag quilt with a lot of multicolor little zigzags in there. Hello, Aaliyah. Thanks for joining tonight. And then after we're done making the quilt top, I am going to attempt to free motion quilt. It'll be my first time free motion quilting a quilt. My first time free motion quilting more than a square this big. So that'll be an adventure for me. And I'm gonna use Krista's book, Machine Quilting with Style, to help me through that as well. And I have links to this pattern and the book up on the post here. Tonight, well, the past two nights, we cut out all the background squares and all of the foreground squares, or the pattern squares. I thought tonight we could go through making, not a whole block, but making like one of the zigzags, like one of the zigzag going down this way and then the other zigzag from this direction. And once we get that done, then we can kind of get a sense of how this whole process is gonna work. Sometimes I like making just one block before moving on to the whole thing. So we'll do one and then we'll start just sewing. We gotta sew all of these squares together into half square triangles. So we'll do two to start because that's what will get us our block. And then we can go through the process of that. And then you guys can go to town and sew the squares on your own or hang out with me and sew all your half square triangles. So that is the plan for tonight, guys. Thank you for joining me. All right, I'm gonna flip you around and we'll get going tonight. All right, I got the machine out. It's all set up. Okay, so here we go. We got our two piles here. So remember last night we drew the diagonals on all of our pieces here. So I'm just gonna take the top two. Oh, let's take this one. This kind of has a little bit of the same color as this going on. This is like the big painty version of this. This is like little dots. These are huge dots with some of the similar colors. So we'll pick these two. I'm gonna put all these to the side. We'll eventually, do all those. And then I'm also going to pick two of my background colors. So some foreground colors, or I've been calling foreground colors. They're really the pattern pieces, the patterned fabric, and the background fabric. So, all right, I'm gonna set those aside. All right, so let's go through the process of what we're gonna be doing. So again, we're using the Charming Chevrons pattern here. We are ultimately gonna make a block like this. So we need 4 half square triangles, and by putting 2 together with the pattern pieces next to each other in this direction, we'll have that side, and by putting them together in this direction, we'll have the other side. So ultimately, I'm gonna divide up my both my piles, my background pattern piles, and my fabric patterned piles. I'm gonna divide those in half once I'm done sewing them, because half of them will go this way and half of them will go the other way, and I wanna make sure that I keep track of that. But first of all, before we do any of that dividing, we gotta sew half square triangles. So I'm gonna put right sides together. This fabric doesn't have a right or wrong side. It's the same on both. But this, the good side, the one with the pattern, that's called the right side. So I'm gonna put the right side facing the right side of the other piece, and I'm gonna just, if the edges aren't matched up perfectly, I'm just gonna kind of kitty scratch it, just scratch the top of the fabric till it matches up as best you can. I'm gonna do the other one right away as well. I'm gonna have the pattern pieces on top because then I can see my diagonal line. When I'm doing multiple pieces, I like to have them laid out all the same, like having the line going all in the same direction, because then I can just grab, and I know that, when you get in the system, like chain piecing process, then you know you can just grab it and everything will be in the same place. You won't accidentally have one turned the other way. So just thinking of workflow a little bit, but we don't have to do that too much with when we're just doing just 2 blocks. So, all right, we drew that diagonal on last night. So what we're gonna do tonight is we're gonna sew a line on either side of that diagonal line. So a 1/4 inch from either side. And we're gonna do that on both. So I'm gonna sew both sides of the first one, then I'll take it off, and then I'll sew both sides of the second side. So over to the machine for the night. So I do have a little business card here taped at my 1/4 inch mark, but I also now have a 1/4 inch presser foot on there, so I know I can just go right up to the edge of that. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put my diagonal line so it lines up with that 1/4 inch edge, because if I can have that 1/4 inch edge, I'll just zoom in for you guys. If I can line up this 1/4 inch side to my diagonal, then it will actually be sewing a 1/4 inch from that diagonal on the left here. So that is the plan. Oop, wrong way. I always go the wrong way. So, all right, let's get sewing. I'm so excited to get the machine out again. All right. Oop, it was already on. And again, these don't have to be completely perfect, your seam allowances, because we are gonna trim these all down when we're done. So if it's a little bigger or a little smaller, you don't have to have your super duper perfect 1/4 inches when doing half square triangles usually. Typically in newer patterns, because a lot of times people leave you a little leeway to be able to trim it down. All right, and this is called chain piecing, where I sew one piece and then I just start up the next piece right after, and it's still attached like a big long chain. So that's what chain piecing is all about. It's just a time saver versus sewing one side and then having to stop and then start it up again. All right, I'm gonna snip, and then I'm just gonna turn it around and we'll do the other side right away. So all I did was I rotated my piece, and I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna, my 1/4 inch mark on my presser foot, I'm just gonna line that up with the diagonal, and we'll be sewing the other side. Oh, Patricia, they're 5 inches, but make sure to, if you're going to do it, make sure to get the pattern too. But, so if you have a charm pack, that will work. The pattern has all the instructions for like how many blocks you'd need and all of that. I mean, yes, it is a simple pattern, but, you know, I still encourage you guys to get it. It's a really well-written and nice pattern. And I do have that link in the post here. All right, I'm gonna get a second little leader here. These just help me jump from one thickness of fabric to the other, and it also makes it so I don't have long strings of thread everywhere. I just have my little itty bitty bits of thread. So all right, we've cut that off. We've sewn on both sides of that line, so you can see, oh, we've done both sides of the line now. So now we can cut apart all our little chains, cut off this piece. So I'm just doing, you know, we're just giving this one block a try with 2 pieces. When I'm done with this, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna sew all of like our 100 or whatever, it's almost 200 pieces. I'm gonna sew all of those in one giant long chain. Unless it gets unruly, then I'll make a couple chains, but I think we'll stick with the one chain just because it's fun. I love having the long chain. So, all right, let me grab a ruler. So now you can see we've sewn on either line. So if we open it up this way, we have a half square triangle. And if we open it up this way, we have a half square triangle as well. So this is just like such a cool way to do half square triangles where you don't have any waste really. So I'm gonna, that pencil line that we drew the diagonal on, I'm gonna just trim that. I'm cutting right on the diagonal, right on that line that we drew. And there we go. We have our first two half square triangles. There's ones there. And when you get to this part, like if you're gonna work ahead, when you get to this part of the stage where you're cutting these apart on the diagonal, for this particular pattern, you have to make sure that you keep the pieces together, like the matching fabric pieces. Make sure to keep those together because those get put together in our zigzag and we don't want to mix them up. Well, unless, I mean, I suppose you could mix them up, but in this pattern, it looks like one piece in the diagonal like that, and that's from keeping the two together. So, all right, so I've cut that, so I got to keep those together. We'll keep those there, and then we have our second piece. So this is going to be a little bit of a challenge, I think, once we have all of the pieces, just managing keeping all the like pieces together, but I'm sure we'll come up with a system for doing that. Oh, you just finished drawing the sewing lines. Nice. Oh, you've committed to the queen size. Nice, Gretchen. Yep, I thought I was doing a queen size, but turns out that I only cut enough fabric for the twin, and now I'm just gonna stick with the twin. So, all right. We will, before I get too far ahead, I want to press these open. But look, so what we'll do after that is we have to make the two matching blocks go in a direction like this, and then the other matching blocks will rotate. We gotta rejigger these. There, now it's going this direction. So ultimately, we'll have something that looks like rejiggering like that. So that's why we need to keep two stacks separately, because we need two to point this way, and then we need the other half to point this way. And you can't just turn it around. Like if you turn it around, it's not gonna give you that. It's totally rotating both blocks. So that's why, you know, we don't want to end up with a bunch of pieces going this way, because then we won't get our zigzag, right? So we need to make sure that we got half going one way and half going the other way. But before I get too far with that, I am going to press these. So let's get over to the ironing board here. Got the little kitties. I know, I think this red is gonna be so pretty. And I mean, you know, we have pops of red in these too. I'm really happy with these color picks so far. So, all right, in the instructions, Krista has us pressing these open. So I always like pressing to one side first. You know, I usually don't like pressing open most of the time because I burn myself, but I have read that for free motion quilting, it is sometimes nicer to have it pressed open, because then your entire quilt top lies a little flatter. It makes it just a little easier to free motion quilt. So I'm just opening the piece like this, and we're gonna just press it open. I always press to one size first though to get it started, but there we go. Now it's the seams pressed open. Yeah, I'm thinking after a few, I'll figure out how to twist it. Well, but that's why I want to divide my piles in half, because I like doing the same thing over and over again, because, you know, then I can make it kind of like a habit, and I think I'm less likely to screw it up if I'm doing the same thing. So I want to do all of them on the one side, so I'm doing all of them like, you know, like this, and then just get used to doing that. And then when I do the second pile, I will get used to, you know, doing them rotated so they're going down this direction. Instead of trying to do both at the same time, I think I would just get totally confused. So we will we'll get to this part where we press them all open. So this is it's gonna be a while till we're that far, because first of all, we got a million blocks here, and we gotta sew them all first, right? Then we gotta cut them all in half on the diagonal. Then we have to press them all like we are now, and then we have to trim them all down yet, right? So there's a whole lot before we have to worry about sewing them together. However, I think when I'm at the stage of cutting on the diagonal, I think I'll divide them up before then, because then I can put the other half away and know that it's the right amount. All right, so I got these two done. But we'll get to all that, and it'll all make sense. I'm just kind of going through the process of one, which I like to do sometimes, just to you get a quick satisfaction out of making one, and then you can make sure you're doing it right, and you can catch some flaws before you do like a bajillion of them, and where you've sewn all of them the wrong direction or something, So I like doing a full block. Thanks everyone for joining me again tonight here. There we go, another block, or another little section. This is our last one here, and then we'll trim, and then we'll sew these together. I'm probably not going to do the whole block because I don't want to like decide where it lives in my quilt yet, but I will sew the matching units together so we can see those. After all the matching units are sewn together, then we can lay out the quilt and find exactly where we want everything to be. Okay, there we go. So there are 4 pieces. Oh, you're 32 degrees there and getting ice. Yeah, we are. I was going to ask Bonnie like how it is in Illinois. We got pretty. We're going to get to negative like 10s and stuff again, and we had some snow today. Ultimately, Jennifer, it's up to you whether you press to one side or not. But again, I think for free motion quilting, it's sometimes preferred to press it open because there's less bulk, there's less like jumping. Like you don't have to, if I pressed it to one side, I'd have this big bulk here that I'd have to like kind of leap up on a little bit. So it is a bit flatter to do it pressing open. But ultimately, it's up to you. I'm not sure it matters all that much. All right, I have to read the instructions. Let's see what we're supposed to trim these down for. Yeah, if you're doing 100 pieces, like pressing them all open, it's gonna take some time. But I'm sitting with the process this time around. All right, I am going to trim this to 4.5 inches. So I have my little. I love this ruler. This is an OmniGrid ruler. What I like about it is that it has a diagonal line right on it. Oh, and I like my little spinny guy. It works great for these blocks. So I'm going to put my diagonal line right on the diagonal here. And these seem to be 4.5 inches. So if you look, I don't actually have that much excess. So I got to make sure that I get the 4 inches in here. And I'm going to trim around the whole thing just so I have a nice clean edge. All right, so we'll do these 2 sides. Oop, I slid a little bit, so I'll match it up to that again. So again, the diagonal, get the diagonal right. And ooh, this blade is still super duper sharp. All right, so when you've done the 2 sides, then I can rotate this around. And now I'm gonna measure on the 4.5 inch mark on my ruler. So I'm looking at the 4.5 inch mark plus that diagonal to make sure that's all lined up. Yeah, and I barely have any excess. So this is really a project that's gonna save a lot of fabric. Like, you're not gonna have a lot of scraps, which is nice, but there's not a lot of leeway if you sew the seam really, like if you go over 1/4 inch, because you're not gonna have enough to trim. So you still need to pay attention to your seams. But there we go. That is a perfect looking block there. So I'm going to do that with the other 4. And then we will be ready to sew these together. So we're getting a little glimpse of the entire process, but once we sew our blocks together, we're going to just be doing one part of the process at a time. So we might be spending like 2 days just trimming these and like a day just pressing them open. But that'll be fun. That's why I wanted to see what one looks like before we get entrenched in the repetitiveness, the Zen repetitiveness of each part of the process. I think I have those True Grip stickers on the bottom of my rulers that really help them not to move. But I think they're getting a little fuzzy, just from all the fabric that it's been on. So I'm thinking I might need to put new ones on because it is kind of slipping around a little bit. All right, that's 2. Oh my gosh, you hit 50s today. Oh, that would be an amazing miracle if we had that here. We did actually get up to the high 30s the last 2 days, and oh my god, when you haven't had high 30s, when you've been like below, like in the negative 20s and more than 30 is amazing. All right, yeah, this one I have barely any slack. So yeah, so definitely be careful sewing your squares together. You still have to pay attention to your 1/4 inch, so you're not making these too small. All right, now I'm lining up that 4.5 inches and the diagonal, and we'll look at these other 2 sides. Just a little bit of fuzzles to trim off of that side. Yeah, just having this spinny mat just makes it easier than having to pick it up and rotate it, and it's just nice to leave it on the mat there. But all right, there's our first one with that crazy fun pattern. And last one here, and then we'll sew together our first zigzag halves. So you could go block by block like this. Ooh, did I? Uh-oh, let's see. Oh yeah, I have a half mark on this. I'm like, why does my ruler look funny? But it's, I have one side of this ruler has a 1/2 inch mark. It comes in handy sometimes for sure. All right, let's do the 4.5 inches again. I'm going to do it this way. I can see the lines a little bit better. All right, 4.5 marks and the diagonal. Sometimes I can get my mat just right so I can cut both of these without moving the mat. So we'll get our systems in place too when you're sewing like 200 of one thing, then you'll find little shortcuts, I think, here and there. But all right, there is our blocks here. So in theory, I would have had, I keep the same ones together. So in theory, this would have been in one of my stacks of squares, and this would have been in my other stack of squares. So then I would take the first stack and I have them all going in like the downward from upper left to lower right direction like that. And then the other half, I would have them going the other way, right? So this is where I always get confused. I have to rotate things like 300 times to get it, but there we go. So now we got a stack going this way and a stack going this way. I would have sewed this entire stack first, probably before moving on to the other side, but we're doing just the 2 blocks. So I'm gonna put those sides together and we'll sew on that line there. And again here, we'll sew there. All right, so we're sewing on this side, and then we should have our halves of a block here. So again, I'm gonna do that on that 1/4 inch line, and actually just shy of it on, so we have a scant 1/4 inch. And you can pin this if you want, but I think these pieces are small enough that I can just kind of kitty scratch it, you know, just my little scratching the top until the edges line up, and you should be good to go, probably without a pin. But if you feel safer using pins, for sure go ahead and pin. All right, this is our first one. I'm still working on making sure I'm sewing straight. You think it'd be obvious, but man, I think it's a skill to sew straight. I have to pay attention. All right. And there we go. So that was our chain piecing again, sewing all of them in like a long chain here. Snip and snip. And now we should be able to have those done, our little 2 halvesies. So assuming I sewed on the correct edge, first I had a little panic that I maybe sewed on the wrong edge, but I think we're good here still. So here's the first one. And let's see if this one's right. Yep. So no matter how you flip it, it should be going in the correct direction. And so there we go. So this is kind of what the block will be like. So you can tell that it doesn't, you know, it doesn't go all the way to the edge. It stops right there, but that's good because when we sew it together, ultimately we're going to sew it together and we'll sew right at that point. And then when you delete that seam allowance, that 1/4 inch seam allowance, then all of a sudden it lines up and comes to a point. So don't fret that it doesn't look like it's matched up perfectly to the edge. That's on purpose. So all right, let's press these. I'm gonna just double check. I think Krista wants them pressed open. We will double check. We sewed all these, press seams open. Yep, all right. So that is the deal. We'll go over to the ironing board again, the little kitty cats, and we'll press these open, and that will be our first little test block. So again, when I press open, I do like to press to a side first. I think it just helps me kind of get the fabric laying flat, and then I can flip it around and I just take a finger and start it opening, and there we go. And again, I think the reason is it lays flatter for machine free motion quilting. So then sometimes I like giving it a little press on the front again too. But I'm so excited for these colors. I think it's going to be really, really fun. And yes, juicy. I've been saying juicy as my description for all this fabric together. All right, and let's do this guy quick too. I'll try pressing with the other hand so my arm isn't in your guys' way. I need to become a left-hand presser. All right, pressing it open. Ooh, I don't know if I've done a left-handed pressing open before. There, I might become ambidextrous on this project too. That'd be kind of fun. Ambidextrous presser. Ooh, wow, that feels funny though. All right, there we go. And I'm gonna just press it on the front again as well. But there, and that's really all there is to it. So ultimately we will have half of our stack will be going in this direction, our other half will be in this direction, and then that's where we can like get out our, you know, if you have a design wall or something, I'm just gonna lay it all out on the floor, but then you can decide, ooh, do I like these two next to each other, or do I want, you know, them somewhere else, you know, this next to some other fabric. That's where we can really start designing. So that's why I'm not sewing these together yet, just to, you know, ultimately the finished block will be two of these sewn together, but I don't want to do that yet until I decide where everything goes. But that's the process here. So now we just need to do that for all of these. So, we have 2 done. We have like about 200 more to go. So I think tonight, you know, we have time yet tonight. So I'm going to just start. Chain piecing. So this is the process. If you're not doing it each step all at once, you can kind of see what it looks like. I know I'm just totally loving these fabrics together too, Carla. Hey, Gian, thanks for joining us. It's awesome to have got people from all over tonight. All right, so I'm going to put these to the side, and first thing up again is we got to sew our massive piles of these together. So let's come up with a system for this. I need to kind of grab from both, and I need a little work area here too by my machine, and I don't want the cutting board there because then, you know, it slides nicer on this surface, the smooth surface. So I think I'll have this stack here, and I'll just grab from both. Although I think I grabbed 2 pieces here, so I'll have to watch out for that. I'll grab from both, and then we'll just line it up. You know, I have it kind of pointed up like this because remember we have our diagonal. And I think when I placed all these, I think I placed all the diagonals going the same direction. Yep, so I should just be able to have this sitting up here, place it, and then we'll sew. So let's just get going. So now we're gonna do our long, giant chain piecing row. So okay, let's place these on top of each other, and again, place it as well as you can, and then to move it little itty bitty bits, you know, we can just kitty scratch the top. All right, and that looks good. So we're gonna line up our diagonal with the 1/4 inch mark, and again on mine, that's just, I have a 1/4 inch presser foot on here. Otherwise you can mark your sewing table or something with a 1/4 inch. And we're gonna sew on the one side. Oh my gosh, you're getting sleet and snow in Mississippi? Man, weather's being crazy this winter, that's for sure. All right, and we're chain piecing, so instead of stopping and cutting this piece off, I'm going to just get the next pieces down here. Oh, Paula, you know what? I did not do any of that. So I did not check my bobbin. I did not change my needle, but I think I just changed the needle pretty recently. I thought I'd see how this goes tonight, and if it feels like I need a new needle, I'll just switch. But yeah, I have to pay attention to the bobbin, make sure that I you know, I'm not sewing 80 pieces and realizing that none of them had bobbin thread in. So we'll pay attention to that. I did, I think pretty recently change the bobbin though, so we'll see. But yes, I did not prep for bobbin disasters. And actually, I'm using this gray thread that we've been using on a lot of the projects lately. And I think I might run out of this gray thread pretty quick. So we might be sewing with a couple different colors of thread here. I like the gray because it kind of blends into everything. But we'll see what else I got laying around here too. Oh, Krista, we did two squares here. I'll get them out again. But yeah, here are two first pieces. I always like doing a little piece of the block, or like, doing one block first before doing all of them, just because I get nervous about doing something wrong. But here you can start to see the chain going. So we got 3 on, or no, yeah, we got 3 on there. So only like 200 more. So we'll have a huge stack of these squares hanging out there behind the sewing machine. They'll probably actually fall on the floor, so that'll be interesting. I haven't chain pieced that many pieces together in like ages and ages. So. It'll be fun. Oh, Krista, I totally have. I talked about this a lot last night, but man, I'm kind of down with the little amounts of time on something, get things done faster than spending huge chunks of time. Like all these little consistent bits of sewing, I think yield me more finished things than if I would just plan like, oh, I'm going to sew all weekend or something, because that never happens for me. That's always my plan, like, oh, I'm just going to relax this weekend and sew, and like never ever does that happen. So these little bits of sewing, even though I have to stop in the middle of projects all the time, because I only do it for an hour here, I've gotten so much more done. So one thing to remember is we're putting right sides together here again. Oh, thanks, Gian. No, Patricia, these are not my fabrics. These are fabrics that I have been hoarding for many of them like for about a decade now. Not some of them not quite a decade, but a lot, and not just hoarding them like in a bin. I've been having these. These were up on my shelf in fat quarters, looking pretty, and I didn't even want to take them out of the fat quarter format. Like I didn't even want to unfold them because they were pretty as a stack, and that's how they sat for like a decade. But like I've been saying, like since the Splendid Sampler project, I've been using fabrics that I've been saving instead of just saving them, and I feel like I'm honoring the fabrics more by using them, and I'm definitely enjoying using them. I don't regret it while I'm sewing with them. I'm like, oh man, I wish I would have saved this fabric. I'm not feeling that at all. Oh, you're hand sewing a sleeve and some quilts tonight. Oh, usually a boring task. Oh, I'm keeping you company for a minute. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, I feel like I need your guys' company for like all the ironing. That's like, we're gonna have a whole pile of ironing once we finish these, and I'm still trying to enjoy, like, not necessarily enjoy, but sink into the zen, sink into the zen of doing one action over and over again. And for me, the one that I don't zen into very well is pressing. And I know that's some people's favorite part, is just pressing. I think the reason, I don't know. I think it's just because I always forget that that's such a big part and it takes a lot of time. And and since I forget about it, my brain's on to the next step. And then when I realize, oh, I got to spend, you know, a couple hours just pressing, then I'm like, oh man, I thought I was farther than this. But, you know, if I just get that out of my head and enjoy it, then, you know, then I'd be more one with the quilting, I suppose. Yeah, so it's the pressing and the cutting that I'm hoping to sink into a little bit more this time around. And we'll be you know, doing each of these steps for a couple days now. You know, we were able to cut the background pieces in one day, and then the patterned pieces in a day. But I think now that we're sewing, they might take a few more bits of time. Your most unpleasing part? Oh, it's to make the labels on the back of the quilt. Oh, funny. I usually forget to do that, which is horrible because I love the label is like the best part. That's the part when you haven't had the project for a while, or you haven't seen the project in a while, and you pull it out again, and you're like, oh yeah, this is when this and this happened, or, you know, if it's a gift or something. So that's, I mean, you know, maybe I just don't finish enough quilts. I have so many quilts hanging out here. Maybe I'll finish all the quilts, and then we'll just have to make a whole pile of labels for a week or something. All right, just kind of kitty scratching things into place here. Try not to sew too fast, because first of all, I'm trying to sew my straight lines and not curve off the edge like I used to all the time. And my camera shakes quite a bit if I get this machine going further. So I definitely like how I have my two piles placed here. They're in the diamond shape already, so I can just lay them down exactly how I need to right away. I don't have to rotate them and futz along with that. So anytime I can get, you know, so I'm not thinking about something, the better. Oh man, you're sewing and binding your blue jean quilt. That is awesome, Nancy. That's what I'm waiting for, the weekend stint to finish my jean quilt. And that's why it's not done yet, because that weekend of, I'm just gonna finish this up, never happens. Oh, Gian, I totally agree. I love the just the whir of the sewing machine. Yeah, all those little bits. That's where the relaxation and the zen of it all, I think, comes in for me, is just the repetitive motion for sure. I'm all about the system and the repetitive motion, and yeah, the sounds of it. This would be a good white noise track on some white noise album or something to fall asleep to. Be kind of fun. Just go around recording sewing sounds. You know, there's that sound of pulling embroidery floss through fabric. Just that rubbing of the fabric and the floss. That'd be another good sound. Another good sound for our white sleeping sounds of sewing. Snipping of scissors, that'd be a good sound. Just snip, snip, snip. See, who needs birds and ocean and you know, waves? We just have sewing machine whirs and scissors snipping and steam from an iron. Oh, there's something about the sound of the Kenmore. Oh, funny. Oh, you have your first sewing machine. Yeah, this is my mom's old sewing machine
from, I think we've looked it up, I think it's from 74, 72 or 74 is when this one was made. And I mean, it's my main sewing machine, and whenever I bring it in to get it serviced, the sewing machine guy there is always like, oh man, these Kenmores, these older machines. I mean, I know there's way older machines of sewing machines, but you know, these machines, they'll last forever, made out of metal and everything. So that makes me feel good. I like that I know that I could potentially use this sewing machine for a while. Yeah, I've dropped a very heavy shelf on it before, and I've dented, so the top is, I have a crack in the top, which stinks, but it was dented from me dropping the shelf on it. I mean, I didn't drop it on. There was a shelf above my sewing table, and it fell out of the wall. Like, it was anchored in the wall, so it pulled out like a whole thing of the wall, and it fell on my machine, and the guy just pounded it out, and it still works perfectly fine. Yes, so Krista, I 100% totally agree with you. That's why, you know, I never used to use like all the gadgets and stuff, like even, you know, now I have like the rotating cutting mat and fancy little stickers and stuff, but I love that quilting, you don't need anything. You just, I mean, you can do it by hand even. You just need a needle and some thread. And, you know, a machine that does, you know, if you're doing it by machine, something that sews a straight line, you know. But yeah, and then my husband, I have his great grandma's old Singer too, from 1926, I think. The Singers, I mean, you can contact Singer and they'll tell you, you give them the number on the machine and they'll tell you the day it was made and in what city, and it's kind of awesome. So if you have a Singer sewing machine and you're wanting to know more about it, contact Singer. They have like all that information, which is super cool. I have it written down by me over here somewhere. Yes, a can-do attitude. Yes, you definitely, you know, don't want to go in the attitude of like, oh, well, I need this and this. I can't work on anything until I have this. You don't for sewing, for sure. If you can get your machine to sew a straight line, then you're plenty good. And I mean, you know, we cut this out with a rotary cutter and everything, but really, if you're really gung-ho, you could cut it out with the scissors too, all these squares. The gadgets just make things a bit easier and a bit faster. So this one I must have cut kind of funny. It doesn't quite match up. But we'll key scratch it a little bit. Get it as good as we can here. There we go. That's why English paper piecing is fun, because you really don't need anything special for that, just your needle and thread. All right, well, you guys, we'll do this for about another 10 minutes or so till 9:30. That's kind of our hour mark, and I'm gonna just leave all of this on the machine, and we will pick this up tomorrow. But I'll show you the stack we got going so far. We're gonna have a huge pile of these squares. I'm excited for it. And then, you know, we're still just sewing the first side. We gotta flip these around and sew on the other side of the diagonal yet, right? So this will be here for a bit of time. Oh man, it's minus 13. Yeah, here it is. It's actually been nice. It's been in the 30s, 30 degrees Fahrenheit here, and which is like a heat wave for us right now. But I think this week we're supposed to get, or this weekend we're supposed to get back down to like -10 to 15. But ooh, you guys, I just my husband and I just got a gas fireplace installed. So we had a wood burning fireplace, but it didn't give off any heat. Like, it actually takes heat out of our house, if you can believe it. And it's just drafty and stuff. And so we're like, oh, let's try switching that to a gas fireplace, and then that can, you know, heat the house a little bit too. It is so nice to have that little fire on all the time. We just got it finished yesterday. So I'm hoping now that, you know, we got it done yesterday when it was still a little nicer out. And now it's going to get to the negative numbers again. So it's going to be the test of, you know, having a fire on when it's so cold outside. I'm just excited. Yes, I like, all I want to do is like sit and knit in front of it or something. But you know, I talked about how I get up in the morning and first thing I do is I get my cup of coffee and read my book. That's I got to do that for the first time today. Sit by the fire and read my book. That's just going to be my most favorite thing ever to do, I think. So I'm super duper excited about that. But I'm hoping that will help a lot with the chilliness. And then we won't have to have our heat in the house pumping all the time. We can just have the little fire on. And it just looks so pretty. And it feels like it should have just always been here. We're wondering why we didn't do that like ages ago. I love this purple fabric, this purple painty blobs. It doesn't turn on a light switch. It turns on with a remote. I guess they mostly nowadays do it with a remote. It's pretty basic though. I mean, we don't have, you know, we can change like the height of the flame and the fan, how often that goes and stuff, but we have to go underneath the unit and manually do all that. So it's kind of like a set it once and then, you know, hope it's all right, because you don't want to be digging around in there too often. But no, it's just a basic, it's not an on-off switch, it's with a remote. But yeah, so we're still getting used to that and everything. But it's awesome. It's awesome just to turn on the fire. And we had our last real fire in the fireplace on New Year's Eve. So that was our last true fire, our true crackling wood fire in the fireplace. But again, it sucks the heat out of our house and doesn't give off any warmth at all. So even though I don't have the nice wood smells or stuff anymore, and the crackling, I'm already liking this so much better. Because first of all, we can have a fire whenever we want. And so far it's doing a pretty good job of heating things up, which I'm stoked about. Yeah, definitely my new favorite place in the house. I think the husband and I, we both took naps in front of the fire today. Oops, I'm veering off my 1/4 inch a little bit. I gotta stick to that line. Man, sometimes I just distract myself and then my straight line goes away. So I think that's my biggest issue with not being able to sew a straight line very well. So I just start thinking about other stuff and stop paying attention. Yeah, and cleaner too. Yeah, actually a lot of cities and some states, you can't even have wood burning anything. So you wouldn't even be able to have a wood burning fireplace, or you wouldn't be able to use it. Well, this is one of those jobs here that it looks like it's one of those deals where you've been sewing for a while and it doesn't look like you've gone anywhere. Like, I still have a huge stack of fabric here. That might be Krista. That might be some of the reasons for not quite straight lines. Get chit-chatting. Yep, no smoke, no like creosote issues or anything like that. Oh, you love yours too, the gas fireplace. Yeah, I remember my parents have had a gas fireplace for a while, but it used to, when we grew up, it used to be a wood burning fireplace, and I loved it. So when they went to the gas fireplace, I was like, oh no, I'm gonna miss the fire, the real fire. But just to be able to come into your house and turn the fire on it's so soothing, like immediately. And you know, we'd maybe have 1 or 2 fires a year when it was the wood burning, and just for fun, not for heat or anything. And so now to be able to just turn it on and have a little pretty fire going, I'm excited. I think we're gonna love it. Oh, that's how you thought when you drew the lines, that the piles would never get smaller. They never get smaller, and then all of a sudden they're done. So my piles aren't getting smaller, but my pile of chain pieced items is sure getting bigger. So I just have to rely on that. So here we go. Here's our one long chain going so far. So it's all just poofed on the end here. So that's my meter of that stuff is actually getting done. Because look, we still have all of this pile to go yet. But we will get through it. I'll do we'll actually call it a day probably pretty soon here. Just because it is already 9:30. But we will pick this up on tomorrow, which is Friday already, if you can believe it. This week just zipped on by. Oh, if you guys ordered fabric, they will be starting to go out tomorrow. And thanks so much again, guys. I'm excited to have some empty bins that I can fill up with new fabric. That'd be fun. All right, I think this is gonna be the last one here. I think we started a new pile of different fabrics here. One day cut, one day draw lines, one day sew chains. Exactly. That's how it's gonna be from here on out. You know, we did the little sample today just so we could get the process. But yeah, now you know we did the first 2 here, and just to see how it goes. But yeah, we're not gonna do that again. We're gonna just keep doing the one part of the process till it's done. And then we'll eventually get to a world where we have a huge stack of both of these. Oh yes, and you guys, Krista is in here right now. So this is Krista's pattern. It's again, we're doing the Charming Chevrons quilt here. It's just gonna look so cute. Again, here's mine so far, my first 2 little squares. I'm doing it, I just really loved how bold this dark blue was behind there, and that's why I decided to do like this dark red for the background of mine. But yeah, so we have her pattern here, and then I am going to attempt to free motion quilt my chevrons, and I'm going to use Krista's Machine Quilting with Style book here as my guide for that. There's a lot of great instructions in here for free motion quilting and for just with your normal walking foot as well. So for some straight line stuff. But yeah, so I think we're gonna call it an evening. I'm gonna just leave my Oh yes, please send me some quilting mojo. I need it. But I'm going to leave my stack right there on the machine here. We'll turn it off, but other than that, I'll just leave it there, and we will pick this up exactly where we left off tonight here. So, all right, I'm going to flip you guys around. All right, I want to show you these blocks just so you can see again. So here are the two we have done. So this is, you can get a sense of the size a little bit. I'm just trying to grab it. There we go. But, oh, I love it's so much different seeing it from far away, I think. But, oh, man, I think I'm going to just love these colors. And they're looking juicy. I like it. So, awesome, guys. Again, these are our finished ones. We will not be at this stage for a while with the rest of it because now we're going to just chain piece, do the whole entire process. But I do like doing one just to see, just to make sure I'm reading the instructions right, that I'm doing it right. And then now that we know that it's good, we're going to just do the one step at a time until it's done. So awesome, guys, and thanks again for joining me here. This will go up on YouTube at Penguin and Fish Movies. So if you want to see a replay, that's probably the best place to do it. You're actually seeing my screen, so the comments you'll see is more in line with how I'm answering it, because I think there's a delay for you guys. So on the YouTube, you'll be able to see the question and answer a little faster. So if you subscribe there, then you should get an email on when things go live. But awesome, guys. Have a great Friday, and I'll see you in the evening tomorrow. Good night.